I'm sorry, this flight is overbooked. We're compensating you $200. Please deplane immediately. The head flight attendant gripped my suitcase tightly. I looked at her coldly, then at the man beside her, who had just boarded late, dressed head to toe in designer labels. Why does he get to board when he's late? But I have a ticket and I'm being kicked off. The flight attendant sneered. Because he's the heir to Houston's top medical group. He needs to rush to Houston to see a renowned physician. Could your emergency possibly be more urgent than a life or death matter? Now, get off. Several security guards forcibly dragged me off the plane. I watched as the cabin door closed. I laughed bitterly. That heir was dying from a terminal illness. And I was the miracle doctor. His entire family had been begging on their knees for 3 months, who had finally agreed today to fly to Houston to perform his surgery. Since they threw me off the plane, I won't be doing the surgery anymore. I dragged my suitcase step by step to the ticket change counter. I want a refund. I slapped my passport on the counter, my voice filled with resentment. The counter staff glanced at the screen, looked me up and down, and rolled her eyes. Sorry, but since you didn't board for personal reasons, you can only get a $200 refund, not the full amount. I laughed in fury. Personal reasons? Your flight was overbooked and you threw me off. That's my personal reason. The counter staff's fingers clattered on the keyboard, her face full of impatience. Who told you to make a scene in the cabin and disturb the order? You're lucky to get $200 back. Don't be ungrateful. Just then, the sound of high heels approached. Flight attendant from earlier strutted over arrogantly, holding up her phone that was still recording. A broke loser desperately trying to extort money from the airline. Truly desperate for cash, isn't she? Just trying to get more compensation. What's with the high and mighty act? The flight attendant crossed her arms, her face full of mockery. 200 not enough. I'll post this online so everyone can see how pathetic you look. Maybe some kind soul will crowdfund 300 for you. I looked at her extremely arrogant face and suppressed my anger. You'll regret what you did today. The flight attendant laughed as if she'd heard a joke, nearly tearing up. Regret coming from someone too poor to afford first class, who can only squeeze into economy. Mr. Thompson booked the entire first-class cabin. Even his bodyguards are in business class. Who do you think you are to make me regret anything? She spun around and shouted at the passengers, coming and going in the departure hall. Everyone come look. This is the person who not only refused to cooperate when the flight was overbooked, but tried to extort our airline. Now she's making a scene at the counter, seriously disrupting everyone's travel. She's a menace to society. Surrounding passengers were instantly drawn over. They're pointing and gossiping, rising in waves. She's dressed so well. How can she be so classless? Exactly. The airline already compensated her, and she's still making trouble. She must be crazy for money. Just get out of here and stop embarrassing yourself. I ignored the onlookers and turned to the ground staff. Take the refund, but you must write in black and white on the refund form that this is due to your airline's overbooking and forcible denial of boarding. I didn't want the Thompson family tracking me down later and thinking I deliberately broken the contract. I absolutely wouldn't take the blame for this. The flight attendant's face darkened. She slammed her hand on the counter. Dream on. We gave you a solution and you refused it. Now you want to smear our airline security? Get this crazy woman out of here. Several airport security guards immediately rushed over and grabbed my arms from both sides. Let go. I struggled desperately, but the security guards wouldn't listen. They dragged me toward the airport exit. As I passed the flight attendant, I couldn't help warning her. You'd better remember my face today and every word you just said. Soon you'll be on your knees begging me. But instead of being intimidated, she kicked over my suitcase. My already damaged suitcase completely burst open. The clothes and specially prepared medications inside spilled all over the floor. The flight attendant stepped on a medicine bottle, crushing it. The custom medicine inside instantly turned to powder. This was bad. That was the special medicine I'd prepared specifically for Thompson. One of a kind. Without this medicine, Thompson wouldn't survive the post-surgery recovery period. I'm so sorry. The flight attendant mocked from behind with fake sympathy. Countless phone cameras instantly focused on me. Various mocking voices completely drowned me out. I was thrown out of the departure hall and landed heavily on the concrete floor. The flight attendant tossed my luggage at me like garbage. Take your junk and get lost. If you make any more trouble, we'll call the police and report you for disturbing public order. Just then, my phone suddenly vibrated frantically. The moment I answered, a barrage of questions came through. What's going on with you? The plane took off ages ago. I just checked the passenger manifest, and your name isn't on it. The caller was the Thompson family's butler, his tone full of reproach and arrogance. Our family spent so much effort inviting you, We even sent the deposit. And now, at this critical moment, you're pulling a diva act. Who do you think you are to make our family wait for you? If it weren't for your surgical skills, you think you'd be qualified to treat Mr. Thompson? I was about to explain it was the airline's fault, but he wouldn't listen. At all. I'm warning you, Mr. Thompson's terminal illness can't be delayed. If you're not at Houston First Hospital's operating room before dark today, don't blame our family for being ruthless. You took our money and dare not do the job. Believe me, I'll make sure you can't work in the entire national medical field. The call was abruptly hung up. The busy tone echoed in my ear. Holding back my anger, I called him back. The moment he answered, the butler's impatient voice came through. What else do you have to say? Just figure out how to charter a plane and get here. No need to fly anymore. My tone was cold. If you want to know why I didn't board, go ask the flight attendant on Mr. Thompson's flight. With that, I hung up. Directly, I opened my mobile banking, found the $3 million deposit the Thompson family had sent earlier, and transferred it straight back. The note only had 4 words. Find someone else. $3 million was a fortune to others. To me, it couldn't buy back the humiliation I suffered today. After doing all this, I blocked all the Thompson family's contact information completely, cutting ties with them. Looking at the crushed special medicine powder all over the floor, I laughed coldly. Thompson, I won't be responsible for your life anymore. I hailed a taxi and went straight back to the hospital. The moment I sat down in my office, my phone vibrated frantically again. I pressed answer, and Director Tony's roar came through. Mary, what the hell are you doing? The Thompson family called me directly. They said you caused trouble at the airport and tried to assault Mr. Thompson. Their flight attendant had no choice but to remove you from the plane to protect Mr. Thompson. Not only do you not repent, you dared to refund their deposit. I froze for a moment, then couldn't help laughing when I realized flight attendant's ability to twist the truth was truly first-rate. To shirk responsibility for the overbooked flight, she could even fabricate such lies. Even more ridiculous was that the Thompson family believed this nonsense. Without even checking, old Mr. Thompson has spoken. You will immediately get to Houston to apologize to Mr. Thompson and arrange the surgery. If you dare not go, I'll fire you immediately. I ignored the shouting on the phone, took out a blank sheet of paper, and quickly wrote a resignation letter. I went upstairs and pushed open the director's office door. Director Tony was holding his phone. He froze when he saw me enter. Smack. I slammed the resignation letter heavily on his desk. No need to fire me. I quit. Director Tony looked at the resignation letter on the desk, eyes wide. Are you crazy? You think resigning will help you escape? I placed both hands on the desk, looking down at him from above. Director, I've been too tired lately. I'm planning to take a long vacation out of town. My medical license. If the Thompson family can revoke it, let them try. As for them wanting to blacklist me, let them. With that, I turned and walked away. Stop. Get back here. Director Tony raged impotently behind me, but I didn't look back. I walked straight out of the office, calculating the time. It was about right. Thompson's terminal illness was being kept alive by my specially prepared medicine. Now that the medicine was gone, it was time for the illness to flare up. When I got home, I turned off my phone, drew the curtains, and went straight to bed. The next morning, the moment I turned on my phone, it was full of missed calls from the Thompson family. Then a strange number with a local area code called. The moment I answered, a familiar voice came through. Dr. Mary, please come back to the airport immediately. Mr. Thompson vomited blood and passed out on the airline has approved a free business class seat for you. A private charter to Houston. It was yesterday's flight attendant. I scoffed coldly and exposed her without mercy. Free business class? Just now, weren't you saying I was poor and only deserved to be thrown off the plane? Stop your nonsense. She panicked, her tone still imperious. The Thompson family is pressuring the airline right now. If I lose my job because of you, I won't let you off. Get over here now. I hung up directly and blocked this number too. But less than half an hour later, there was pounding on my door. Bang, bang, bang. Accompanied by a strong, pungent smell. Mary, you murderous quack. Get out here. I yanked the door open. A bucket of red paint splashed across my security door, dripping down through the crack. The flight attendant, with several security guards and airline uniforms, blocked my doorway menacingly. The hallway was already filled with neighbors peeking out, their gossiping voices rising. What a sin. She usually seems like such a quiet girl, but she's actually a black-hearted doctor. Exactly. Someone came to her door and threw paint. She must have done something terrible. The flight attendant heard the surrounding discussion and became even more pleased. Everyone look. This is the quack doctor. She took the patient's money but didn't do her job, deliberately delaying treatment until the patient's life was in danger. Now she's hiding at home, playing dead. This kind of black-hearted doctor should be arrested and sentenced. Her face was twisted. She'd obviously been pushed to the edge by the Thompson family and wanted to use me as a scapegoat to earn favor. You think hiding will work today? You'll crawl to Houston even if you have to. I looked at the red paint all over the floor. Just as I was about to call the police, heavy footsteps came from the stairwell. Several bodyguards in black roughly pushed aside the onlooking neighbors. Butler, John came upstairs, looking down at me from above. The flight attendant immediately rushed to greet him when she saw him. Mr. John, look. I found this woman. She definitely won't delay Mr. Thompson's treatment. John didn't even give her a proper glance. He walked straight to me. Dr. Mary, finish throwing your tantrum. He pulled out a check and waved it between his fingers. $6 million. Double the price. Come with me right now, and our family can let bygones be bygones. I didn't even look at the check. I coldly spat out 2 words. Not going. Don't be ungrateful. John's face instantly darkened as he dropped all pretense. You really think you can afford to offend our family? He leaned in slightly, his voice extremely low but bone-chillingly cold. If you won't go willingly, I'll tie you up and drag you to the operating table today. If you won't operate, our family has ways to make you operate. Dr. Mary's mother is currently staying at Green Care Nursing Home. My whole body shook. They were despicable enough to track down my mother's location. You dare touch my mother and see what happens? Clenched my teeth, staring at him. To cure the young master's illness, our family will do anything. John sneered continuously, his face full of arrogance. You'd better be smart and go pack your things now. Otherwise, I guarantee your mother will be kicked out of the nursing home today and left homeless on the streets. The surrounding bodyguards immediately stepped forward and restrained me. The flight attendant gloated from the side. Did you hear? You dare show off in front of the Thompson family? How audacious. Looking at their shameless behavior, I suddenly laughed. John frowned, extremely impatient. What are you laughing at? I'm laughing at how stupid you are. I stopped smiling and looked at the flight attendant, who was still gloating. You think I don't want to save Thompson? Even if I go now, he won't survive. John's face changed dramatically. He grabbed my collar. What do you mean? Ask her. Yesterday at the airport departure hall, she broke my suitcase. She also crushed the special medicine I specifically prepared for Thompson. Without this medicine to protect his heart meridian, forget surgery. He won't even survive the anesthesia. The smile on the flight attendant's face instantly froze. Stop slandering me. You deliberately spilled your things yourself. And now you want to blame me? Butler. John, don't listen to this crazy woman. She's a fraud. I watched her panic and found it laughable. The departure hall surveillance recorded everything clearly. Want to check it yourself? John stared at me hard, as if trying to judge whether I was telling the truth. After a long moment, he snorted coldly. Stop making excuses. Our family has access to all the precious medicinal materials in the world. At worst, we'll have someone prepare another. Now come with me immediately. He waved his hand. Several bodyguards in black directly lifted me up and forcibly stuffed me into a black business van parked downstairs. Several hours later, I was brought to the entrance of Houston First Hospital's intensive care unit. Through the glass, Thompson was covered in tubes, and the monitor beside him emitted sharp alarm sounds. Heart rate continuously dropping, blood pressure barely measurable. Several experts surrounded the bed, sweating profusely, but helpless. The miracle doctor is here. John pushed through the crowd and pulled me to the front. At the end of the corridor, an elderly man with silver hair and an imposing presence walked over with a cane. Thompson's grandfather, Paul, looked me up and down and directly handed me a blank check. Fill in any amount you want. As long as you can save my grandson, our family won't treat you poorly. But if you can't save him, his voice suddenly turned cold, full of killing intent. I'm afraid your mother won't be safe. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. The Thompson family members were all cut from the same cloth. Mr. Paul, you certainly have impressive authority. I looked at him coldly, not taking the check. Unfortunately, your grandson's life can't be bought back with any amount of money. Paul flew into a rage, raising his cane and striking it heavily on the ground. Outrageous. You dare curse my grandson? Someone tie her up and throw her in the operating room. Today she'll operate whether she wants to, or not. Bodyguards immediately surrounded me. I didn't resist. I just took out my phone from my pocket and opened a video. I held the phone screen up to Paul's face and pressed play. In the video was yesterday's scene of the flight attendant crushing the medicine. This medicine is one of a kind in the world. Without this medicine to protect his heart meridian, Even God couldn't save him. Paul suddenly turned his head and looked at the flight attendant cowering in the corner. The flight attendant was so frightened. Her legs gave out. She fell directly to her knees. "Please let me explain." Slap. A loud slap landed hard on her face. The flight attendant's face instantly swelled on one side, blood trickling from her mouth. She covered her face, scared out of her wits. "It wasn't me. It was her. This woman is lying." The flight attendant pointed at me, trying to throw all the blame on me. Paul was shaking with rage, his hand pointing at the flight attendant trembling. The trembling of Paul's finger was the only warning before his cane struck the marble floor with a deafening crack. The sound echoed through the sterile ICU hallway like a gunshot. "You." Paul's voice was barely a whisper, yet it carried a weight that made the surrounding bodyguards step back in terror. He stared at the flight attendant, his eyes bloodshot and wide with a mix of disbelief and sheer, unadulterated rage. "Mr. Thompson, I swear, it's a deep fake. She edited the video." The flight attendant scrambled backward on her hands and knees, smearing the blood from her lip across her chin. She looked frantically at Butler John. "Mr. John, you know me. Our airline has served your family for years. Would I ever do something to harm the young master?" I stood there, arms crossed, my expression completely flat. "A deepfake? The airport security cameras have the original footage. I'm sure a family as powerful as the Thompsons can hack into Houston International servers in about 30 seconds to verify it. Go ahead. Check." Paul didn't need to check. He had lived 70 years swimming in the blood and treachery of the corporate world. He could smell a lie from a mile away. The way the flight attendant's eyes darted, the cold sweat soaking through her designer uniform, it was all the confirmation he needed. "John," Paul growled, not taking his eyes off the flight attendant. "Yes, sir," John said, stepping forward. His previous arrogance had completely evaporated, replaced by a pale, sickening realization that he had kidnapped the only savior of the Thompson bloodline while completely believing a rat. "Take this miserable wretch out of my sight," Paul ordered, his voice dripping with venom. "I want her fired immediately. I want her airline bankrupt by Monday. I want every single penny she has ever earned seized. Sue her for attempted manslaughter of my grandson. Ensure that for the rest of her pathetic life, she cannot even afford to buy a loaf of bread, let alone step foot on an airplane." "No." "Please, Mr. Thompson. I was just trying to keep the economy passengers in line. I didn't know." The flight attendant shrieked, her voice cracking as two burly bodyguards grabbed her by the armpits and hoisted her into the air. "You didn't know?" I interrupted, my voice cutting through her hysterics. "I told you exactly what was in that bottle. I told you it was a matter of life and death. You stepped on it and laughed. You kicked my bag because you thought I was poor and therefore my life and my patient's life didn't matter. Well, look at you now." She thrashed wildly, screaming apologies and begging for mercy, but John silenced her with a brutal backhand. "Get her out," he hissed, thoroughly embarrassed that he had been manipulated by her. As they dragged her kicking and screaming down the corridor, her wails slowly faded into the sterile hum of the hospital. Silence descended upon the hallway, save for the frantic, erratic beeping of the heart monitor from the ICU room behind the glass. Paul turned to me. The murderous aura was still there, but now it was mingled with a desperate, suffocating panic. His grandson's life was ticking away in seconds. The mighty patriarch of the Thompson family, a man who could buy small countries, suddenly looked like a frail, terrified old man. "Dr. Mary," Paul began, his voice shaking. He swallowed his pride, his knuckles white as he gripped his cane. I apologize. My subordinates were blind. I was blind. We were given false information. Please. I am begging you. Name your price. The check is still yours. Just go in there and save him." I looked at the blank check still trembling in his hand, then met his gaze. "Do you think I care about your money?" I asked coldly. "Do you think 3 million or 6 million or 60 million means anything to me when your dog of a butler threatened to throw my mother out of her nursing home?" Paul shot a lethal glare at John, who instantly dropped to his knees, his head bowed so low it nearly touched the marble. "Dr. Mary, it was a bluff," John stammered, sweating profusely. "I would never actually harm an innocent." "Shut up," I snapped. I stepped closer to Paul. "You want me to save your grandson? Fine. But we play by my rules now. First, you will immediately dispatch your private helicopter to Green Care Nursing Home. You will transfer my mother to the finest VIP suite in this very hospital, under my personal security. Until I see her face on a video call, comfortably resting in that suite, I will not scrub in." "He doesn't have that kind of time," one of the American specialists yelled from the doorway of the ICU, pointing frantically at the monitor. "His blood pressure is 60/40. He's going into multi-organ failure." "Then you'd better fly fast," I said, not breaking eye contact with Paul. Paul didn't hesitate. He pulled out his phone. "Do it," he barked to someone on the other line. "Get the chopper to Green Care. Move her mother here. Now. Break the speed limits. Clear the airspace. You have 10 minutes. He hung up and looked at me, his chest heaving. "Done." "It's being done. But please, the medicine. You said without the medicine, he won't survive the anesthesia. If the medicine is gone, what can you do?" That medicine was synthesized from 14 extremely rare herbs. "It took me 3 months to extract the active compounds to stabilize his heart meridian," I explained, taking off my jacket and rolling up my sleeves. "Since your brilliant flight attendant crushed it, there is no chemical way to protect his heart during the surgery. Which means..." I paused, looking through the glass at the dying heir. "Which means I have to do it manually." The American specialist scoffed. "Manually? What are you talking about? You can't manually protect a failing myocardium during a high-risk tumor resection. This is absurd. Mr. Thompson, you cannot let this quack touch your grandson." I ignored the specialist. My phone buzzed. It was a video call from an unknown number. I answered it. On the screen was my mother, looking slightly confused but smiling, sitting in a plush leather seat inside a helicopter, a team of nervous-looking medics offering her tea. "Mary, sweetheart? These nice men said you arranged a better room for me," she asked over the roar of the rotors. My expression softened instantly. "Yes, Mom. Just enjoy the ride. I'll see you in a bit." I hung up and slipped the phone into my pocket. I turned to the head nurse standing paralyzed by the ICU door. "Prepare a set of pure silver acupuncture needles, lengths varying from 2 to 5 inches. I need an ECMO machine on standby, 50 units of synthetic adrenaline, and a scalpel," I commanded, my voice echoing with absolute authority. "Sterilize the room. Everyone who is not assisting me, get out." The specialist looked at Paul, waiting for him to object to this insanity. "Silver needles? For a terminal genetic heart defect? Do whatever she says," Paul roared, slamming his cane. "If he dies, I'll bury you all with him. Move." The hospital staff scattered like frightened mice. Within 2 minutes, I was scrubbed in, gowned, and standing over Thompson's frail body. The surgical lights blazed above us. The monitor's agonizing beep was a constant reminder of the Reaper standing in the corner of the room. I looked at the pale, unconscious man on the table. He was collateral damage in the arrogance of his own family and their sycophants. But I was a doctor. My grudges ended at the operating room doors. "Starting incision," I said calmly. The next 6 hours were a blur of blood, sweat, and absolute precision. The Western doctors watched from the observation deck, their jaws hitting the floor as they witnessed what true medical mastery looked like. When Thompson's heart began to fibrillate, the exact complication the destroyed medicine was supposed to prevent, I didn't reach for the defibrillator. Instead, my hands moved like lightning. I drove 3 5-inch silver needles directly into the major acupoints surrounding his sternum, infusing them with a specialized stimulation technique that forced the paralyzed myocardium to contract. I was artificially maintaining his heart rhythm with my own hands, bypassing the failed electrical pathways of his heart, while simultaneously guiding the lead surgeon to remove the malignant mass pressing against his aorta. It was an exhausting, impossible dance of Eastern meridian manipulation and Western surgical technology. My muscles burned, my vision blurred from the intense focus, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. Tumor isolated. Hemostasis achieved. The assisting surgeon gasped, looking at me as if I were a god descended from the heavens. "Dr. Mary, his vitals. They're stabilizing. The heart is beating on its own." I slowly withdrew the needles. The monitor settled into a steady, rhythmic beep. Beep, beep, beep. I let out a long, shaky breath and stepped back from the table. "Close him up. Monitor his intracranial pressure. He's out of the woods." I stripped off my bloody gloves and tossed them into the biohazard bin. Without another word, I pushed through the swinging doors of the operating room. The moment I stepped into the hallway, Paul Thompson, the terrifying patriarch, the man who controlled half the state's economy, did the unthinkable. He dropped his cane, fell to his knees, and bowed his head to the floor. Behind him, Butler John and the 24 bodyguards instantly dropped to their knees as well, filling the hallway with the sound of rustling suits. "Dr. Mary," Paul's voice cracked with overwhelming emotion. "My family, the Thompson bloodline, we owe you everything. I offer you my deepest, most sincere apologies for the disrespect you suffered. From this day forward, you are the most honored guest of the Thompson family. Whatever you desire, it is yours." I looked down at the kneeling billionaire. The anger that had been boiling inside me since the airport finally began to simmer down, replaced by a cold, calculating calm. "Get up, Mr. Paul," I said tiredly. "Your grandson is alive. But the surgery was heavily compromised because I lacked the stabilizing medicine. He will be in a coma for at least a month. During that time, his heart will require a new synthetic compound, one that only I know how to make. If I don't administer it weekly, he will regress and die. Paul scrambled to his feet, his face pale. He finally understood the reality of the situation. He didn't just need me for today. He needed me indefinitely. I held his grandson's life by a thread, and I was the only one holding the scissors. Anything you need, Paul swore quickly. Laboratories, materials, funds. I will transfer $100 million to your account tonight as an apology fee. Please, you must oversee his recovery. I will, I said, leaning against the wall. But I have some unfinished business back home. Name it, Paul said, his eyes darkening with protective ferocity. Anyone who has crossed you will be erased. I smiled faintly. First, my mother stays here, in the best suite, under your protection. If she gets so much as a paper cut, I walk away.
Done.
She is practically my own sister now. I swear it on my life, Paul vowed. Second, I pulled out my phone and turned it back on. Instantly, a flood of text messages and voicemails from Director Tony poured in. The last one was an audio message. I hit play on speaker so Paul and John could hear it. Mary, you arrogant bitch. You think you can just quit? I've already contacted the medical board. You are blacklisted. You'll never practice medicine in this state again. The Thompson family has officially withdrawn their funding from our hospital because of your stunt. I'm going to sue you for breach of contract and ruin your life. The audio cut out. The temperature in the hallway seemed to drop 10 degrees. Paul's face twisted into a scowl so terrifying it could have stopped a clock. Who? Paul asked quietly. Is that insect? That is Director Tony, my former boss at City General Hospital. I replied casually. He fired me and reported me to the medical board because your flight attendant told him I assaulted your grandson.
Paul turned to John.
John. Yes, Master Paul. By City General Hospital. Hostile takeover. I don't care what it costs. Have the papers drawn up by dawn. Paul adjusted his cuffs, his eyes burning with lethal intent. And as for this, Tony, make sure he is formally investigated for embezzlement, malpractice, and whatever else you can find. I want him in handcuffs by noon tomorrow. Dr. Mary is now the majority shareholder and the new chief director of City General. John bowed deeply. Consider it done, sir. I'll be returning to my city tomorrow to collect the rest of my things, I said, pushing off the wall. I'll expect the hospital's deed on my desk when I arrive. The next afternoon, the weather in my home city was uncharacteristically gloomy, but my mood had never been better. A fleet of black Maybachs, courtesy of the Thompson family, escorted me directly to the front steps of City General Hospital. I stepped out, dressed in a sharp-tailored suit, my expression unreadable behind dark sunglasses. Two of Paul's elite bodyguards flanked me as I walked through the automatic sliding doors. The lobby was in total chaos. Doctors and nurses were whispering frantically, gathered in tight groups. The moment they saw me, a hush fell over the room. Mary? Nurse Sarah, a former colleague, gasped. What are you doing here? Director Tony sent out a memo this morning. You're blacklisted. Security is supposed to escort you out on site. Before I could answer, the elevator doors pinged open and Director Tony stormed into the lobby, his face red with fury, flanked by 2 hospital security guards. You actually have the nerve to show your face here? Tony screamed, pointing a fat finger at me. I told you, you were finished. The board is furious. The Thompsons pulled their $50 million grant. Because of your tantrum, this hospital is facing bankruptcy. He turned to the security guards. What are you idiots waiting for? Throw this quack out onto the street. Call the police. The security guards took a step forward, but my bodyguards instantly stepped in front of me, casually brushing their jackets aside to reveal the holstered firearms at their waists. The hospital guards froze, immediately putting their hands up and stepping back. Who are these thugs? Tony stammered, his bravado faltering. You're bringing armed men into my hospital? Correction, Tony. A smooth, cold voice echoed from the entrance. Everyone turned. Butler John walked in, flanked by a team of high-powered corporate lawyers carrying briefcases. He adjusted his glasses and looked at Tony with absolute disgust. It is no longer your hospital, John stated, pulling a thick stack of legal documents from a briefcase and tossing them onto the reception desk. As of 8 a.m. this morning, the Thompson Medical Group has acquired 100% of City General shares. And as per the new ownership structure, the position of Chief Hospital Director has been transferred. Tony's face drained of color. He looked like he was going to vomit. Transferred? To who? The Thompsons hate us. They pulled the funding. The Thompsons pulled the funding because of you incompetent swine, John sneered. He turned to me and bowed a full 90 degrees in front of the entire hospital staff. Director Mary, the hospital is yours. What are your first orders? The silence in the lobby
was deafening, jaws were practically hitting the floor. The nurses who had pitied me yesterday were now staring at me in absolute awe. Tony staggered backward, bumping into a potted plant. Mary, director, no, this is illegal. This is a joke. You're a disgraced doctor who assaulted the Thompson heir. You really shouldn't believe everything a flight attendant tells you, Tony, I said, taking off my sunglasses and stepping closer to him. He shrank back, suddenly realizing how small he truly was. Tony, you've spent the last 5 years taking credit for my research, suppressing my promotions and kissing up to wealthy donors while neglecting the public wards. I said, my voice projecting clearly across the silent lobby. You thought you could throw me under the bus to save your own skin. Well, it turns out I drive the bus now. Mary, Dr. Mary, please. Tony's voice began to tremble. His arrogance shattered like glass. We've worked together for years. I was just stressed. The board was pressuring me. You can't do this. Security, I called out. The 2 hospital guards, realizing instantly who signed their paychecks now, snapped to attention. Clear out his office, I ordered, and don't let him leave the premises. Tony blinked, panic setting in. Wait, why can't I leave? You're firing me. I'll leave. You're fired. Yes, I smiled coldly, but you aren't leaving. The Thompson family auditors spent the morning looking through your private ledgers. It seems you've been skimming off the pediatric oncology fund for the last 3 years. Tony let out a choked gasp, his knees buckling. The police are already on their way, John added unhelpfully, checking his Rolex. I'd estimate they'll be here in roughly 2 minutes. Enjoy prison, Anthony. I hear the food is terrible. Tony collapsed onto the floor, clutching his chest, weeping hysterically. No one moved to help him. The staff merely watched in stunned silence as the wailing siren of approaching police cruisers filled the air outside. I turned to the rest of the staff. The hospital will undergo massive restructuring. Salaries for the nursing staff will be increased by 30%, effective immediately. We are no longer a playground for corrupt executives. We're a hospital. Go back to work. A moment of stunned silence was followed by a sudden eruptive cheer from the nurses and junior doctors. As I walked toward the VIP elevator, John fell in to step beside me. Master Paul wanted me to inform you. John said quietly that the airline matter has been resolved as well. Oh, I pressed the elevator button. Do tell. The Thompson Group initiated a massive short sale on the airline stock this morning while simultaneously leaking the unedited footage of the flight attendant destroying critical medical supplies. John explained, a cruel smirk playing on his lips. The public backlash was catastrophic. The FAA has suspended the airline's license pending a federal investigation for endangering a patient's life. The company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy an hour ago. And the flight attendant, I asked, stepping into the elevator, arrested at her apartment this morning. Federal agents charged her with felony destruction of property, reckless endangerment, and attempting to incite a riot. Because the medicine she destroyed was valued at over $1 million based on the research and development costs we provided the authorities, she is looking at a minimum of 15 years in a federal penitentiary. John adjusted his tie. Also, we ensured her family's assets were frozen to pay for the damages. She is entirely ruined. I nodded slowly as the elevator doors began to close. It was harsh, perhaps brutal, but in the world of medicine, life and death hung on a razor's edge. Arrogance and cruelty cost lives, and those who played with lives deserved no mercy. Will you be returning to Houston soon? Director Mary John asked just before the door shut. The young master's first weekly synthesis is due in 3 days. Have my private jet fueled and ready by Friday? I replied, a genuine smile finally touching my lips. I have a patient to cure. The door slid shut. The storm had passed. The people who thought they could step on me because I didn't flaunt wealth or wear designer labels had learned a devastating lesson. Power didn't come from a first-class ticket, and it didn't come from a loud mouth. True power was the ability to snatch a life back from the jaws of death. And from now on, I was the one who decided who lived, who died, and who paid the price. If you like the story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.